Hi, I'm Esther from MakeMyDayCreative.com, and today we're going to be using the front post treble crochet 2 together stitch to create this diamond trellis pattern. So here is a front post treble crochet 2 together stitch. The stitch makes a dense fabric which is good for making nice warm cowls and scarves, and if you double up your thread or use a smaller hook, then you can make a really stiff fabric to create a basket like this one over here. You can find the pattern for this on my website. The back of it looks like this. It looks like plain crochet, but as you'll see when we're working the stitch, when we work the post stitches, we do actually miss some of the stitches, so if you look closely you can see where some stitches haven't been worked. So we're going to start off by making a chain of 15 chain, that's 14 plus 1 for the turning chain, followed by a row of single crochet, 14 single crochet, and then a row of 14 double crochet, so that will look something like this. The stitch repeat pattern here is 4 stitches, so it will be 1 stitch used for the front post crochet stitch and then 3 regular single crochet stitches in between. So the first thing that we're going to do is work a front post treble crochet stitch slanting in the forwards direction. If we just go back to our sample quickly, you can see this stitch just here, it's this one. That's where we're going to be starting, and then we're going to do 3 single crochet followed by a front post treble crochet 2 together, that's these 2 posts here. Now, I know some of you have been struggling to know exactly where to put your hook, both for the post stitch part and then once you've completed it as well, so I'm just going to use some stitch markers to help show you a little bit what's going to happen with those unworked stitches. So I'm going to put one in the first stitch because we're going to be making a front post treble crochet stitch first of all, and that means we're not going to be working that top stitch at all there. But then we're going to work 3 single crochet, and then we're going to work our first front post treble crochet 2 together stitches. So I'm going to put another stitch marker in there, and I'm going to do the same again, skip 3 because they'll have 1, 2, 3, they'll have single crochets in them. Oops. And just put in a stitch marker. If you've made a bigger sample, then you'll need a few more stitch markers. And you don't have to put stitch markers in if you feel that you don't need them, but I think this will be helpful for some of you, so I'm just going to do it to show you. Now I'm just going to chain 1 to turn before I start this row. Let's chain 1 turn. Now work a treble crochet stitch, front post treble crochet stitch, so yarn over twice, and now where we're going to put it, if we just look at where these stitch markers are, you'll see that there's 3 double crochet in between the 2 stitch markers, and we're going to work around the single crochet post which is directly below the middle double crochet stitch. So I'm going to go in from the front to the back, and it's from right to left, and pull up a loop. So I've got 4 on my hook now, and then I'm just going to work them all off. Yarn over, pull through 2, 3 times to work my first front post treble crochet stitch. And now there's a stitch marker in that one there, so I'm going to work my 3 single crochet in the next 3 empty spaces. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I've done my first post stitch here, and now at my next stitch marker I'm going to work the front post front post treble crochet 2 together stitch. So it's yarn over twice for the first treble crochet stitch, and where I'm going to work it is around that same post that I've just worked my treble crochet stitch, but I'm going through the stitch from the other direction. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2 until there's 2 loops left on the hook. So I've done the first of my treble crochet stitches, and now I'm going to do the second one, yarn over twice. Now it's the same deal as we had before. We've got 3 double crochet stitches in between the stitch markers, and I'm going to go through the middle one, find the middle one, and then go through the post just underneath it. And that's from right to left. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and I've got 3 left on the hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 3 to join those 2 stitches together. So you can see the zigzag shape is starting to form. I'm not going to work in that stitch there where my stitch marker is, but in the next one to it. 3 single crochets, 1 in each of the next 3 stitches. And now I'm ready for my second front post treble crochet 2 together, yarn over twice. I like to hold on to my yarn and pivot my work slightly and back through that same post that I've just worked around, but from the opposite direction. 2 left on the hook, yarn over twice, yarn over twice, and now again I've got 3 double crochet stitches between the stitch markers. Find that little post underneath the middle one and draw up a loop. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, 3 loops left on the hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. So you can see I'm getting a nice zigzag now, but this stitch works backwards and forwards of where the hook is on the top of the work. I'm just going to work the next 3 single crochets. Now if you've made a larger sample than I have, you'll obviously have to repeat that a few more times, but I am now almost at the end of my piece. You can see I've put a pink stitch marker here, because I haven't got space to work another full front post treble crochet 2 together. I'm just going to work a front post treble crochet, but instead of like I did at the start where I worked it facing forwards, I'm actually going to just work it backwards and around this post that I just used in my last post stitch. If you're working in the round, you don't have to work these separate stitches, because you just end up joining to the place where you started right at the very beginning. So I'm not going to work where I put my stitch marker in before. I'm just going to work 2 single crochets to get to the end of the piece into the turning chain. So that is the end of the 3rd row. If we just go back to our example here, you can see we did a treble crochet, a treble crochet 2 together twice, and then finally another treble crochet. So I'm just going to work backwards in this direction, doing double crochet stitches the whole way. Now I like to chain 2 to turn. You can chain 3 if you prefer. You can see my little stitch markers. I'm going to leave them in for now because they're not really bothering me. I know some of you have been wondering if you have to work into these stitches on this return row, and the answer is you don't work into them. So we're just going to ignore them for now. So if you're wondering, I'm using a size 5mm hook today and some Aran or worsted weight yarn. You can use any kind of yarn and hook you like for this stitch. If you want to make something stiffer like a basket, then you might want to double up your yarn or go down a hook size to make a nice stiff fabric. So you should find that you've got 14 double crochet stitches. You can see where I'm working. Sometimes the front post stitches are a little bit looser, but it all gets hidden by the post stitches that go in front of it, so you don't need to worry if they come out a little bit loose. It's a bit tight at the end here. Okay, so that's the front, and then on the back, left those stitch markers in. So I've just worked 14 double crochets, that's including the turning chain, back after working my first row of these post stitches here. I've put some new stitch markers in to show me where my front post treble crochet 2 together stitches are going to go. If you look at the work really closely, you can kind of see where they're going to go anyway, because they basically go in the stitch which is most directly above the kind of downward facing point. So you can kind of see where they're going to go anyway. Hopefully yours will line up similarly. So I've just done a chain 1 to turn. And I'm going to work 2 single crochets to get to the place where I do my first front post treble crochet 2 together stitch this row. I'm there now, yarn over twice. Now instead of going around the single crochet post 2 rows below, this time I can just go around the top of the post in the row below. There's a nice big space to put the hook in, so it makes it a lot easier after you've done the first row, and you can just pull it up to make it look nice and pretty. Yarn over twice. Now I go under the first one and under the second one. It kind of gathers them together and makes the top of the stitch look nicer. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2 until there's 3 loops left on the hook. Yarn over and pull through all 3. So now I've done my first of those front post treble crochet 2 together stitches, and you can see it makes a nice diamond shape. And I've got my stitch marker showing me the stitch I've just used up to make that stitch. And I'm going to go into the next one that's not marked to do the first of my 3 single crochets. Now the second, and now the third. So my next stitch marker, yarn over twice, hold on to it if you like to. Now I'm going to be going around the same posts that I just went round and pivoting the work round to make it easier. And I'm going to go underneath the first and the second in the row below. I'm just kind of ignoring the fact that I've just put another post around there. You might find if you're using multiple strands of yarn it gets a little bit bulky in there, but it's good if you're trying to make a really stiff project like for a basket, because it just makes the end result stiffer. And now complete the stitch. So now I've done the second one. My stitch markers show me which one to skip. Work 3 single crochet. And now I'm going to work the final front post treble crochet 2 together of this row. Run up the first loop, pull through 2, pull through 2, and over twice. You might find at the edges that the diamonds aren't quite so diamond-like. It's just because we're not doing a full front post treble crochet 2 together there. If you're working in the round, then you don't have any of those, but this is a flat piece, so we have a few of them. So you can see the patterns building up. So I'm just going to chain 2 to turn, or you can chain 3 if you prefer, to turn, and then work another row of double crochet all the way back, and I'll see you in a moment. So just finished my row of 14 double crochets, which includes the turning chain worked at the end. So I've got 14 stitches, and as you can see we've got our 2 rows of post stitches, and we're about to do the 3rd row. So this row is basically a repeat of the first row, with the exception being that we don't need to work around the posts of the single crochets as we did in the first row, because instead we can just work around the tops of these post stitches just here instead. So hopefully it's going to go a little bit easier than the first row did. I've left my stitch markers in that I used to show you before, but I'm not going to use any this row. It's obviously, if you're working a really big project, you're not going to be marking every single 4th stitch. You'll need a lot of stitch markers for that. And I think we've hopefully all got the hang of where these stitches are going now. So I did a chain 1 to turn at the end of my last row, and this is going to count as being worked in using this first stitch here. So my first single crochet is going to go there, but first I'm going to work a front post treble crochet about the tops of this first diamond here. So it's yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So I've made the first one, and like I said, it counts as being worked in that first stitch just there. So I'm going to go into the second stitch in the row. 1, 2, 3. So this next stitch lines up quite nicely with the point, the downward point of the diamond below. I'm going to work a front post treble crochet 2 together stitch. If I can get my tension right, that is. And the second arm of the stitch goes around the next diamond point. And I pull through all 3. So you can see I'm not using stitch markers here, but I know that that first stitch is where I would have put one. So now I'm going into the second stitch along. I'm going to make my 3 single crochets before doing my next front post treble crochet 2 together. Once you've got the pattern established after the first 2 rows, it becomes a lot quicker and easier to make this stitch. 1, 2, 3, and now I'm going to finish by doing a front post treble crochet stitch that's backwards slanting. That stitch there. Try and go through both loops there. The final stitch. And there should be one more into the turning chain, but my turning chain is quite tight. I think that should be 14. So you can see that we're starting to get the pattern now. We've got a diamond followed by a half diamond. And the next row is going to be just another row of double crochets, and the row after will be an exact repeat of this row here. And so from that, hopefully you can now finish your sample until you get a little square that looks just like this.